Chapter 23. Rabbi Foreman makes an argument, and I think he is correct. He's not the first one to see this. The other rabbis saw this as well, that after Exodus chapter 20, chapters 21, 22, and 23, you could connect all of the text, this section is called Mishpatim, which means laws. Or you could also say customs. Traditions, you could also say. But laws, traditions, customs, that they start to blend. Judgments. You can also say judgments. I like that word better. And what's interesting is that you can tie these up. You can tie these and connect them up to the 10. If you start looking at each of these, so let's read the first one and see if you can do it. 23:1. You shall not circulate a false report. Connect that to number 1 in the 10. False, don't give false testimony. Connects up with that, right? Okay, do not put your hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. There it is, right there, a witness. Okay, so you can see how this connects up. So each of these are connecting up to one of the 10. I've argued before, as others have prior to myself, that these 10 are chapter headings for all the commandments, so that the 10 stand at the front as a title, and then all of the other 603 commandments or thereabouts are basically coming underneath those. Okay, so look at verse 4. Look at verse 4. If you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall surely bring it back to him. If you see the donkey of one who hates you lying under its burden, and you would refrain from helping it, you shall surely help him with it. The one thing that I find fascinating about the Torah is that it says to us over and over again, you got to put your feelings aside. And you have to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Not because you feel like it. And in fact, oftentimes when you don't feel like it, that's an indicator that you should do it. As you see your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you say, you know it's his. There's some type of identifying marker on it. You go, I know whose that is. You know what? I know he doesn't like me, so you know what? Forget him. I'm not helping him get his stuff back. Not my problem. Not my problem. It's he lost it. If he can't take care of his stuff, well, he doesn't deserve to have it. Or, I found it, and here's the old limerick, finders keepers, losers weepers. Right? If I find it, it's mine. No, the Torah says if you find it and you can tell that it belongs to somebody else, you have the moral obligation to get it back to them. You know why? Because if it was your stuff that was lost, you'd want somebody to get it back to you. And everybody here in this room, because of our faulty memories, we lose stuff. We misplace stuff. You know how I know? Because every Shabbat, some of you leave stuff here. Dan, you're the worst. Okay. Thank you very much. Dan is the worst. I didn't want to say any names.
One Siddur.
Yeah. He left the Siddur here last week. No, this is true. This is true stuff. It's very true. No, but like I said, I've gotten calls from you guys. It's hilarious. Yeah, I get a call. I think some of you are testing me.
Oh, okay, that was one Kindle.
Yeah, I get a call. You're like, hey, I left I can say, not my problem. You left your stuff there. You left the coat here. You left the purse here. You left the Bible here. You know what?
Possessions is 9/10 of the law.
Yeah, possessions 9/10 of the law.
You could have a nice eBay business. Huh?
Exactly. Yeah, I know. From now on, you guys are finding your stuff on eBay. You want it back. There's got to be a little something in it for me.
Yeah, seller, Pastor Brent.
Yeah. You guys will find your stuff. You'll know where it's at.
How many stars does your seller rating have?
I'm telling you, man. So, thing is, look what he says also. If you see a donkey of one who hates you, lying under its burden, and you would refrain from helping it, you shall surely help him with it. The Torah says this. Not only you got to help this guy that you hate, but you've also got to help the animal. Said this way, the Torah goes out of its way numerous times, at least 7 that I can count, to talk about treating animals with kindness and respect. Helping out an animal. Why? Why does the Torah care about animals? Your thoughts?
Because they can't fend for themselves as well against man anyway.
Okay, CJ. Because God made them too.
It's a life.
It's a life. God made them too.
Shows how much you care about people.
Shows how much you care about people. Yeah, there's a direct correlation. The Torah knows this. It's into our heads. The Torah knows that how you treat an animal will directly be corresponding to how you treat another human being. Yeah.
Also, like, what's good for the habitat? You need the habitat that will sustain yourself.
Absolutely. Good word.
Well, you see also where criminals,
Yes.
ones that are hard murderers, that start out a lot of killing animals.
Absolutely.
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 There's no feeling there.
Yeah.
It does go out for corporal punishment of animals that cord people, though.
Yes.
So, which is kind of interesting.
But animals have to be treated, in this instance,
They can't be eaten.
they cannot be treated with unkindness or with tortured. They cannot be treated, in a malicious fashion. Yes.
I think one of the problems that we have today is the fact that we're being taught evolution in our school. That God didn't create us, we were just random coincidence that happened many years ago, and we've developed into what we are now, which creates no respect for life. If you don't respect life of any kind, whether it be animal or mankind,
Yeah.
that's why people can go and shoot somebody and have no feelings.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
Particularly about this and caring for someone we don't like in their animal. Proverbs tells us that a harsh answer stirs the anger, but a gentle answer turns away wrath. Chances are your harsh neighbor that you don't get along with, you don't like, and you have grievances, and you take care of that animal. It's kind of that gentle answer. Chances are your relationship's going to improve.
That's the hope, I would think. Yeah.
By taking care of someone else's animal, we're also working on our relationships, and you're probably going to go, oh, they're not so bad. Really listen to them and make amends in some way, possibly, or,
Yeah. It hopes that you move that direction. Oh, look at verse. Yeah.
I was just going to say, even in Luke it says, what good is it? I mean, even sinners do good through, I'm sorry, I'm going to get over here.
I know what you're
If you do
referring to.
good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even the sinners do the same. If you do good to those who do good.
Right.
That's easy. But it stretches us to be better, just like she was saying, to do good to those who do bad to you.
Right.
It actually does heap coals upon their heads. Because
Yeah.
I had a boss that no one worked for him past 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I worked for him for about 4 years. I needed the money.
Yeah.
But it taught me that he didn't tell me who I was. God tells me who I am.
Right. See, I have those voices on my shoulder. I don't know about the rest of you. The competing ones like do good. Then I hear Cohen do bad. And then I hear the good angel do good. Then I hear Cohen saying do bad, and I'm like, Cohen, stop that. I want to do good.
Which one do you listen to?
Yeah. Well.
He has the muzzle closed.
Yeah. I'm like, Cohen, knock it off. It's not easy. I'm telling you, it's not easy.
Just this morning, I heard on the news that there was like a Goodwill store. Somebody went in and bought like a sport jacket. And when he got home, there was $4,000 in the pocket of that jacket.
Cha-ching, score.
Yeah, so he had the option because, hey, he bought the coat.
Right.
But he took it back so that they could find who put the coat on the rack there and give the money back to that.
Very cool. That's Torah. That's Torah. Look at verse 9. He says this, also you shall not oppress a stranger. We're hearing this language all the way through the book of Exodus. He says, for you know the heart of a stranger because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. In other words, if you don't have an Egyptian understanding of your of where you came out, if you don't know where you came from, you will forget how to treat other people with kindness and respect. He says, you must always, he keeps saying to them, you must always remember that you were a stranger in Egypt. And you remember how you were treated. So don't do that to anybody else. You remember how you were oppressed. So don't ever oppress anybody else. This becomes a common theme all the way through Exodus. He keeps saying this because you know what it was like to be an oppressed in Egypt. You know what it was like to be a slave. Now I want to go to another verse here that's kind of controversial. Verse 19. Verse 19. He says this. He says, you shall, the first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring into the house of the Lord your God. And then we have this phrase. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. And from this particular verse, and there's two other verses like it, one elsewhere in Exodus and one in Deuteronomy, and they say the exact same thing. We have a whole tractate in the Mishnah called Hulin, Hullin. And from this particular verse, we have thousands and thousands of commandments regarding the mixtures of meat and milk. So today, if you go to Ben Yehuda Street and you say, I would like to go to McDonald's or I'd like to go to Burger King, because both are there. If you walk in and you say, I would like to have a cheeseburger, they're going to look at you like you're an idiot. Because nobody gets a cheeseburger, nobody gets, you don't get that in McDonald's. And the restaurants in Israel, primarily, most of them, because they don't want any fight, they're either a dairy restaurant with no meat, or they're a meat restaurant with no dairy. So if you get some meat and you have a piece of bread, and you say, I'd like to have some butter with my bread. That will not happen.
Here's more of what.
So, but here's the issue for me. The issue for me is that the word that's used here for, they translate it correctly here in the ESV, young goat, it's the word gedi, which is a kid, which can only be a goat. And the very fact that it says milk is further indication that it's a goat, because in their time period, the only milk they drank was goat's milk. They didn't drink bovine milk, from what we can tell. So, you wouldn't like sheep's milk. It's not very good at all. Goat's milk, very, very good. Where's Pam? She's not here. Goat's milk is very good. Very good for you. So they were drinking goat's milk. And what the text seems to be saying is, don't take the goat's milk from the mother, and then take that milk, and then take the young that she has also produced, and put this goat inside this boiling cauldron of goat's milk, and take the life of this animal by the very milk of its own mother. There's something fundamentally wrong with taking and mixing life and death. The milk was meant for life. The way you're using it is for death. And you're mixing things that are very, very different. You're crossing boundaries. Yeah.
Wasn't there also, I don't know, I can't remember, but fertility practice at that time?
Yeah, although, yes, I will say this, that there was, in Ugaritic literature, there was a time we thought that this was the case, that it spoke to this. The more and more that that's been studied out, the more and more that people are saying, nah, you really can't bring those two into that particular document into this. So I don't use it anymore, but as it's been studied, less and less are seeing, it's a very fragmented text. So it was very difficult to begin with, and now some are saying you can't even use it at all, because we just don't have any way of proving that. So my issue is this as well. You don't have any other animals besides cows that would give off any kind of milk that would be a drinkable or usable commodity. So, and for that matter, sheep, you wouldn't want to use their milk. Other meat breed animals don't give us milk. So, all right. Now,
what leads you to think that the milk has to be drinkable by us, or that it wasn't?
well, I'm just saying it's because it says milk, but it'd have to be enough to boil it.
Right.
You have to be an animal that produced enough milk that you could have a volume to boil something. So, the only other animal that you would be able to do that would be a cow. But from every indication we have, they weren't doing that. So historically, we just don't have any evidence they're using cow's milk at this time.
Why would they be?
They were using goat's milk, because from that you can make cheese, you can make all kinds of products. Yeah. Hold on, 1 and 2. Go ahead.
Could this also be pointing towards the Messiah? The Messiah was to be followed identically the procedures of the sacrificial lamb. The lamb was to be a lamb of a year.
Yes.
That means he would be a year old, but not 2 years old. At that time, the lamb would have been weaned. Not to eat or sacrifice an animal that has not been weaned, that is still nursing on his mother's milk.
It's a possibility.
And by the way, sheep cheese is very good.
Yeah, although sheep milk is not one you want to drink straight from. Even it's not the same.
Some cultures do is what they have, so.
Huh?
Yeah, that's what they have. Some cultures, that's all they have, that's what they do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
It is what it is. All right.
Kind of backing up to where they're talking about, as far as like treating foreigners, because you're a foreigner or a slave like in Egypt, and then there is a lot of talk about rules as far as what can and cannot happen to slaves, but then in Jeremiah it looks like God tells them to get rid of all your slaves. And
Okay, I didn't read the Jeremiah. I want to read the Jeremiah text before I comment on it.
Okay, because to me it kind of almost sounds. It reminds me of when Yeshua said, "You know what? Moses wrote laws about divorce because you guys are hard of hearts, and so that's why they're there. But it's not really meant to be that way." And it just it kind of reminds me of like, because he punishes them. He says because you got rid of your slaves and then you took them back, you're going to die of sword, of pestilence, and famine.
Yeah. So I don't want to look at the Jeremiah text. I haven't done that, so I need to do that.
Okay.
In order to comment on that in relationship to what we're seeing here. Go ahead, and then I'll come back to you. Go ahead.
So you said that they didn't have cow milk, but it says a lot about oxen and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes.
So they did have cows at first.
They had cows, but you wouldn't have been able to milk an ox, so and get any milk out of it.
Okay.
Wouldn't work. Yeah, go ahead.
So, you know, the whole meat and dairy thing is pretty wild. When I was in Connecticut, I mean, there were people that had kitchens. They
Yes.
built a separate kitchen, so they can have a meat kitchen, a dairy kitchen, with cutting utensils, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which is to me so interesting because when the angels come to visit Abram,
Right.
brings them, you know, the fatted cow and curds.
Right.
So, there. So, I don't understand the rabbinical twist on this, where it got so wide.
Well, yeah, it went very, very. That's why Tractate Helene goes into literally. You have hundreds of commandments when you get to the mixing of meat and milk. I mean, it gets really, really. Yeah.
Well, they try to claim that the curds would have been available, and by the time it takes to dress and prepare a cab, that the curds would have been fully digested.
Right. They say 4 hours. They get into different digestive issues.
I
Yeah.
Some of them say half.
I gotta move on.
Some of them say hours.
Verse 20. Verse 20. Important text. He says this: "Behold, I send a malach before you to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared." Translated angel, but malach. So listen to this: "Beware of him and obey his voice," which is fascinating because elsewhere in the Hebrew Scriptures, this Shema B'Kol, to obey a voice, is used of Yod He Vav He. Then it says, "And obey his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgressions." Which is fascinating because in Exodus 34:6, we're going to find out that it's, again, the Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He, who pardons your sins. And then it says, "For my name is in him." This is going to lead to the later prophets talking about the name of the Lord. The name of the Lord as another way of speaking about God. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are saved. So that I can say the name of the Lord or the Lord. And the name of the Lord is a way of speaking about him. But he has this angel, be careful, you better obey his voice. He has the potential of not pardoning your sins, and my name is in him. So he says, for my angel, this is verse 23, for my angel will go before you and bring you into these people groups. And I want to make this observation. I think that this angel is Yeshua. That's my own personal understanding of who this is, as it will play out. But also notice that this angel is going to drive out. It keeps saying this. It's the Hebrew word garash. He's going to drive out these people groups. That God is going to do this. God is going to do it, and he will drive them out. This brings us to the issue of, and one of the things we haven't really, I don't think we've done a great deal of work on, is why did God want to dispossess these people groups from the land, from this land? And so this is why I'm going to have, March 17th, I'm going to have him speaking about this out of his book, is Michael Heiser discussing, the topic he'll have with us in the afternoon is the conquest of Canaan and its role in driving out the Nephilim. That what's going on with Israel is they're told to drive out, but God will do it. He will use them, but he'll be the primary player. I will drive them out. I need to dispossess this land of these individuals who are hybrids that are causing problems, and they're going to continue to cause problems. Yeah.
Now, we see that when Yeshua drives out all the demons into the pigs, and where that guy was at that had all, like, legion.
Yeah, you're up in the Galilee.
Yeah, and he had legion him, and he drove all of them out of him and into the pigs and then off the hill.
Right.
Off the cliff.
So, I think you're going to enjoy what Heiser's going to do, because it's going to show you, we're going to go into he's going to walk you through how this plays out in the Hebrew Scriptures, that what's going on. We know that this is the case because by the time the children of Israel get ready to go into the land of Canaan with Joshua, they don't go in with Moses. They send in the spies, and the spies come back and they say, we got a problem. This place is filled with really, really big people. In fact, we look like grasshoppers in their sight. Now, they may have been hyperbolic, but the point is that this land has got some seriously big people in it. To the point that by the time we still get to the time of David in the monarchy, that David is dealing with a person named Goliath, who is also of large size. And we know that we're told that Goliath has 4 brothers. So genetically, this guy is of good size. Taller than your average person at the time. Yeah.
This is the reason why that God destroyed the world with the flood, was to try to wipe out that. God, speaking of Noah, didn't say Noah was a righteous man. He said Noah was perfect in his generation.
Yeah.
Perhaps Noah's wife was not. And that's how the DNA of the Nephilim came through the flood.
Right.
Into
Yeah, you have, like I said, you have, that I can find, you have 3 options. Yeah, here's your 3 options, unless you want to argue for a 4th that I don't know about. The Nephilim, right in Genesis 6, 1-4, right before the flood, we have this whole thing about the Nephilim, which is 6, 1-4. Then we have the flood. So that means, and we have them after the flood. That means one of 3 things. You have 3 possibilities, unless there's a 4th I don't know about. They were not all destroyed in the flood, or the genetics was on the ark, or they came back, they were destroyed and they came back. So you get one of 3 options.
I've heard one.
So
that they were able to still ascend. Some of them were still able to ascend, and then after the flood, they came back down.
well, that would mean that they survived the flood by being in the air. Okay.
Okay.
That's still part of number 1.
Okay.
Unless you have a 4th one that I don't,
Okay.
that's, okay.
So he said that they couldn't. He told Isaac that they couldn't. That they had to leave for 400. That they had to be gone for 400 years because the
Sin of the Amorites. Yes, he tells Abraham that, chapter 15.
Had not filled up the land.
Right.
So it perhaps taking on a Nephilim aspect into, however they hybrided, perhaps that's part of the sin of the land.
I think it is.
is as far as repopulating the Nephilim.
Yeah, if you have hybrids, that is those who are cast down, and these are
Because certain types of other hybrids were abominations as well, as far as.
yeah. So this what I'm saying is we have something going on here that's bigger than what we're seeing, and so what Israel's called to do as a nation is there to be God's weaponry, so to speak, to the army. Although for the most part, God says, "I'll fight for you. I'll drive them out, and I will do warfare against them." Israel was supposed to rely upon God to do the warfare. If you look at, for instance, what's the first city? Jericho. I want you to march around it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let it collapse. Then he says, I'm going to send hornets that are going to drive them out. I'm going to do some things. We have one battle where he holds the sun still. We have another battle where he sends down hailstones. By the time we get to Hezekiah, Hezekiah wants to make an alignment with Egypt. Hezekiah tries to make an alliance with Egypt, but God says, don't do that. And then what happens? Go back and look. We just read about this angel of the Lord in Exodus 23. The angel of the Lord, it says, in one night killed 185 Assyrians. 185,000, thank you. So, quite the night. Yeah, go ahead.
So, these hybrids are still very present today. One of my times in Israel, I went down into the Negev and was with a public health nurse that had developed a relationship with the sheep in an unrecognized village. So what you have over there with the Bedouin is some that became Israeli citizens in 1948, but most stayed as wandering Bedouins. So she had made friends, and it took quite a while, but anyway, I was able to go and be with her and talk with her about what was happening. And one of the biggest problems that they were having in the clinics is six-finger disease, which is quite interesting to me because we know that the Nephilim had 6 fingers. And so I got to go into the home of a couple of these sheets, and the women there are expected to bear 10 children between ages 14 and 24, and then they're cast off. And each of them have, the sheiks have, 10, 12, 15 wives, and they're running out of women, so they're black marking them in through tunnels under the Gaza from Egypt and down through the north through the Golan. But I just, find it, I wasn't knowledgeable about Nephilim like I am now when I was there. And so if you just think about how they have inbred so that they're pretty much our size. But we do know that there's also instances that have been found in Afghanistan and